paying all of our Social Security, which isn't a lot, but also had that as a cushion. About 5 years ago, she moved in with her daughter and son-in-law. Oh, is it 9 o'clock? Do we have a quorum? We do have a quorum. It is 9 o'clock. Thank you very much.
It is 9 o'clock already?
Yeah.
That clock's off by 10 minutes.
Yeah, those clocks are always off.
9 o'clock.
Just gonna wait for the one person to come in. Good morning. Today's meeting of the Neighborhood and Affordable Housing Advisory Board is called to order. Oh, her chair and my gavel at the same time. Today is October 14th, 2025. Welcome, everyone. Agendas of today's meeting are on the wall at the entrance to the chamber. Please remember to turn off your cell phones. To ensure a complete record of the board's actions, we ask that each individual wishing to speak clearly state your name and spell your last name for the clerk. I will ask the board members to introduce themselves and identify the fields they each represent, starting from my right.
Hi, Christine Bond, and I'm representing the homeless and those in poverty.
Good morning, Sharisa Doty, Affordable Housing.
Linda Byers, a resident.
Good morning, Frank Cornier, Affordable Housing Development, and Homebuyer Education.
And I'm your board chair, Robin Field. I represent the lending industry as it relates to affordable housing. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of the board's September 9th, 2025 meeting. May I have a motion to approve item 2.1?
I move approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Item, citizens to be heard regarding items not on today's agenda. Is there anyone here to speak to items not on today's agenda? If so, please step to the podium, state your name, and spell your last name for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak on a subject that is not on today's agenda. Seeing no one come forward, Ms. Dubois, do we have any e-comments? We will move to the next item. Item 4.1 is recommend funding approval to City Council of a deferred loan in an amount of not to exceed $1,391,938 provided by the City of Clearwater for the development of real property located at 1718 North Betty Lane into affordable multifamily housing and authorize the appropriate officials to execute documents required to effect closing of the loan. Mr. Mayu will present this item.
Good morning, everyone. Dylan Mayu, I'm the acting housing manager. Today I'll be sharing details on Clearwater's use of home ARP allocation and the proposed project that came forward during our most recent funding notice. As you know, the City of Clearwater received a one-time allocation of $1.6 million in home ARP funds from HUD. These funds are designed to serve qualifying populations, specifically households experiencing homelessness, at risk of homelessness, or in need of services to help prevent homelessness. Since the award, the city has made 3 substantial amendments to our 2021-2022 annual action plan to ensure these funds are used efficiently. The most recent amendment, approved in June 2025, shifted resources from supportive services and tenant-based rental assistance to affordable rental housing development. The intention was to create more permanent housing stability by directly expanding our affordable housing stock. Following that amendment, staff issued a notice of funding availability. The application window closed on August 8th, 2025, and we received 1 application from the Homeless Empowerment Project, or HEP. And this is, this is still NAHAB. Hey. HEP is proposing a 35-unit apartment development targeting families with minor children who are either homeless or living in deep poverty. Most of these, almost all of these, will come from their programs directly. Some key features: 6 residential buildings plus a community building that will be staffed 24/7 with case managers, and also a laundry facility. Outdoor amenities including a playground and picnic area, and then proximity. They are less than a half mile from HEP's main campus, ensuring the residents will have direct access to supportive services. The unit breakdown is as follows: 12 2-bedroom units, so that will be 4 at 30% of area median income, 4 at 50% AMI, and 4 at 80% AMI, and then 23 3-bedroom units, That'll be 7 at 30% AMI, 9 at 50%, and 7 at 80% of area median income. The total project cost is $10 million. HEP has secured $5.79 million in commitments and is pursuing $1.75 million from Penny for Pinellas. Construction is anticipated to begin early 2026. The project does meet home ARP requirements, advances Clearwater's strategic housing goals, and creates long-term affordable rental options for families most at risk. With regarding staff, our recommendation is to support this project with final funding approval contingent upon the completion of a construction and operating pro forma, subsidy layer analysis, environmental review, confirmation of all funding sources, and approval of the development order. So in short, we are requesting your recommendation to council. Again, this development represents a real opportunity to create safe, stable, and affordable housing for vulnerable families here in Clearwater. With that, I'm happy to address any questions.
Is this a deferred loan? Did someone say deferred?
It
This will be a deferred
How
loan,
long is the deferment?
30 years.
Is there an option to forgive at 30 years?
There will be.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And based on the numbers you provided, there's a little bit of a gap. Where are they going to fill that gap with the funding?
So they are working with Pinellas County for penny funds. And then our funds will bring 1.4. So I think that leaves about $1 million gap. And so I know they are looking at private financing, and they're also working with donors to receive, that remaining gap.
And this is from the ground up. This is new construction.
Correct.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, the site was a former, automobile parts yard. So to go from that to this is nice to see.
And close to their existing services, because on Betty Lane, right?
Correct.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
That's great.
How large is the parcel?
I don't have that information here. I want to say it was around 1.5, maybe 2 acres, somewhere in there, but I can get you that information.
Is the parking restricted? I mean, does it have a provision for limited parking?
I
Or
don't
did-
have that
okay.
either. I want to say it was 1 per unit, so they are taking advantage of that,
Right.
that reduction, but I don't have the specifics on that.
That's okay. I was just curious.
Does the site meet all the zoning for what they want to build on the site?
It does. I believe they've already gone through the DRC process. It was either a level 1 or level 2 flexibility, and they did go through DRC and it was approved.
And I do want to say, I do like the position we're in. We're leveraging a $10 million project for about $39,000 per unit. So I like the leverage that we're in this situation.
Are there any more comments or questions from the board? Does anyone from the public wish to comment on this item? Do we have any e-comments? Hearing no further comments, may I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Mayor, do you have anything additional to report?
Just one thing. We attended the SHIP conference put on by Florida Housing Coalition, and the city was awarded the Housing Residence Award for Indigo Apartments, and you all were a part of that decision, or at least the recommendation to council. So I appreciate your work and review of that program, and it's that project has closed, and they're starting to work on the rehabilitation part of that project, and we've already received the documentation, the income documentation for the city's units. So congratulations to you all.
How many units is that again?
208 units.
Wow.
Thanks.
Do any board
Go
members,
Terry.
do any board members have any final comments before we adjourn? Meeting is adjourned. The next meeting of the Clearwater NAHAB is scheduled for November 18th at 9 a.m. here in the City Council chambers. Thank you. Now the meeting's adjourned. Now we have like 2 minutes for the next one.
Got 2 minutes for
Housing Advisory Committee for the City of Clearwater is called to order on this day, October 14th, 2025. Welcome, everyone. Agendas of today's meeting are at the entrance to the meeting room. Please remember to turn off your cell phones. To ensure a complete record of the committee's actions, we ask that each individual wishing to speak clearly state your name, spell your name, your last name for the clerk. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. At this time, I would like to ask the board members to introduce themselves and state the fields you represent. Starting to my left, Frank.
Frank Cornier, representing those in the construction industry and building affordable housing.
Michelle Chenault, representing the Clearwater Community Development Board.
Linda Byers, city resident.
Sharisa Doty, Affordable Housing.
Good morning, Councilmember Mike Menino, City of Clearwater.
Christine Bond, advocate for low-income persons.
Good morning, Sherry DeBlair, representative of Essential Personnel.
And I am Robin Fiel, and I represent the lending industry as it relates to affordable housing. This is the second of 4 meetings of this committee. I thought we had a great discussion at our first meeting. I know we have a lot to discuss today, so let's get right to it. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from the committee's meeting on September 9th, 2025. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. The main item on today's agenda is to continue our discussion led by Amanda Warner of Wade Trim. Ms. Warner, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us again this morning. Can I get the presentation? Great, super. So we are resuming our discussion of the recommendations for the Affordable Housing Committee for 2025. So today, we're going to go back through the schedule just to update you on where you are. I know a few of you weren't in attendance at the last meeting, so just to bring everybody up to speed. So in August, the city appointed the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee for the year 2025, and that occurred on August 21st. In September and October, what we're doing these 2 months is going through the recommendations of the previous committee and seeing whether there are any suggested revisions to those recommendations or new recommendations to carry forward into the next year. And then on November 18th, we'll be coming back to have a public hearing to consider the draft Affordable Housing Advisory Committee report for year 2025. Then in December, the City Council will meet, approve that Affordable Housing Advisory Committee report, which is called the Local Housing Incentive Strategy Report, and then that ultimately will be submitted to the Florida Housing Finance Corporation, and then that is what goes to the state. Then moving into the next year, so in early 2026, that document will be incorporated into the Local Housing Assistance Plan, or the LHAP, and then that will go back to the state. So this is an iterative process moving through this year and into early next year for the 2026 SHIP, State Housing Initiatives Partnership Program. All right. So again, we met on September 9th. That was the first meeting. We're meeting today, October 14th. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 28th. And then our final meeting will be November 18th. And again, November 18th will be held as a public hearing. So just to go back through the values, principles, and vision that we discussed at the previous meeting. So the Local Housing Incentive Strategy Report contains values, principles, and visions for affordable housing. Each year, the committee reviews these and decides whether these are the values, principles, and vision to continue into the next year. So the first one is affordable housing values. Affordable housing supports a dynamic and competitive economy, improves social well-being and builds a sense of community, aspires to have housing that fits the city's workforce, and everyone deserves a safe, affordable home. And I wanted to pause on this one. Ms. Byers, at our last meeting, you brought up a comment about the word safe, I think, was it in relation to this principle?
It was in relation to accessibility.
Okay.
So I don't know if it equates to the same definition as safe, but
Okay. In terms of this particular value, was that a recommendation to revise the language in this to include accessibility as term or substitute the word safe? I just was looking for clarification on that from our last meeting.
A safe, though, is a broader scope of, it doesn't necessarily mean accessible to someone that may be in a wheelchair. So I think if we retain safe,
Okay.
it should be fine.
Okay, all right, okay. And then would you like to add the word accessible also, or is that?
If we could, I would love
Okay.
that, if we
How
could
does the
add
rest of
it.
the committee feel about that? Because I know this was brought up at the last meeting.
When you say accessible, are you talking financially accessible or physically accessible?
Physically, for those in wheelchairs, handicap. You know, homes today are being built under a lot of programs, and I'm sure he could address that more than I in the construction phase. They are being built to be accessible. They have to be accessible, widened doorways, so someone can move around their home. Roll-in showers may not be a necessity, but it sure helps, you know. But widened doorways, ramps, getting in and out of a home, you know, going up to a stem wall construction is pretty hard if you don't have a way to get into the house, as an example. So it's more for disabled persons.
Under the Code of Construction, I understand that there you can build a home that's handicap accessible, and that may not be the correct term, but that's what it's referred to often. So I'm not sure if we can mandate a percentage of affordable housing projects like the one we just heard. Is it possible, and I'm literally asking in general, for an affordable housing project to have a certain, or maybe it is a part of the code now, Lauren, that a certain percentage are built for accessibility. Is that something that's out there now? Frank?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that there's funding for special needs that do include people with physical disabilities, but I'm not aware of any municipal mandates anywhere in the state that says that 10% of the units you're building have to be accessible.
So is your question that you would like to mandate?
No, it's a value. It's not
Oh,
a
it's a
mandate.
value.
I'm referencing it as a housing value. The value in the accessibility, you know, contributes to the well-being of those that are disabled.
Exactly.
So
No,
that's
I
where I'm
totally
going
agree
with
with the
that.
value. I'm not sure how.
Okay, so for this, so for the affordable housing values, so these values, principles, and vision are kind of the overarching aspiration of what affordable housing would be in the city of Clearwater, so I think.
Good morning, Lauren Matzke, Planning and Development. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but since the conversation is on accessibility, I wanted to advise you that Forward Pinellas and the countywide rules have recently been amended to allow for municipalities to establish a density bonus to encourage universal design, which is the accessibility, which is just building it straight away to be more accommodating. So that would be one avenue that could potentially be integrated into this and thus worked on in the future.
Perfect. Wow. We knew that, though, going in. We knew that. That's right. I'm just kidding. So, my only comment is that are you wanting to amend our values to include a potential desire for more affordable housing to be built with accessibility involved? That's the best way I can phrase that.
Yeah, I think from what I'm hearing from the comment from the last meeting, the discussion today, is that it would be to amend D to say everyone deserves a safe, accessible, and affordable home. Something to that effect, is what I heard from the
I
last
have no
meeting.
problem.
Okay.
Just clarifying.
Is everyone else comfortable with that as a committee?
As long as that doesn't mean that everything built has to be accessible,
Right, okay,
because we're not at that point with construction yet.
understood.
Yeah, my concern is we're narrowing overall value. I mean, we could add a lot of additional terms in that, and then we're making it narrow instead of making it a broad value.
That's true.
Yeah.
I do think safe is overarching, because if you have someone with accessibility issues, for it to be safe for them, it has to be accessible.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing from that is leave this as it is with safe being inclusive of accessibility. Is everyone comfortable with that? And does that address your concern, Ms. Byers, as well?
To an extent, because safe, I don't know if it's a synonym for accessible, but it's within lines, and it's appropriate, I think, for the cause of identifying values.
Okay. All right, so those would be the affordable housing values. And then moving down to principles. So affordable housing would be affordable over the long term. Diverse supply that provides for a mix of income levels and the diverse needs of residents. Designed to be sustainable, energy and cost efficient, and to minimize physical barriers to accessibility. So number 3 includes what we were just speaking about. Number 4, an aesthetic character with the surrounding neighborhood. 5, strategically located and pedestrian-oriented with access to mass transit, open spaces, educational institutions, and employment or workforce training opportunities. And 6, incentivized to promote incorporation of affordable housing into all housing developments. Any comments about those?
I do have a comment.
Yeah.
Number 2 specifies residents. Going back to the affordable housing values, we say city's workforce.
Ah, okay.
I wanted to say something earlier, but in the interest of moving on, I didn't. But now that I see the principles, I'm wondering if we change C in affordable housing values to reflect the city's residents.
Okay.
Because somebody who isn't working may look at it, somebody who may be retired may say, well, this doesn't apply to me, or where do I fit into your values?
Any other thoughts on that?
I agree.
Okay. Agree. So for C, it would be revised to aspires to have housing that fits the city's residents?
Yes.
Okay, and remove the word workforce. Okay, all right.
Then the nomenclature is the same between the
Okay.
values and principles.
Okay. Okay, before moving on, anything else regarding principles? I know there's a few of them. All right, hearing nothing further on principles, affordable housing vision. So this combines all of that into one overarching statement. The city of Clearwater will incentivize the development of a diverse supply of housing that is safe, accessible, affordable, sustainable, and energy and cost efficient, that blends into the aesthetic character of all the city's neighborhoods, proximate to public amenities and employment opportunities, and which supports an inclusive community and the diverse needs of residents.
That includes accessibility.
It does.
Accessibility and residents, yeah, accessibility and residents.
Right.
Okay. All right, okay, so those will be the values, principles, and vision that will move forward. I have that minor edit. Yes, go ahead.
I do have, at the last meeting, we had a discussion about the term affordable and the definition of. I think it was recommended that we use sustainable, perhaps, because the state of Florida has its own definition of affordable, which is relative to the monthly payment of the loan. So if we could maybe put, rather than use affordable in this particular case, use attainable, maybe, meaning that it's achievable. I don't know. I mean, affordable is fine. It's just that we had that conversation about eliminating affordable and using attainable, but that would only apply to purchasing a home rather than, I don't know.
Any other thoughts about that, the word affordable versus attainable?
I mean, I like affordable just on its, as a definition of a word. I don't think most people would associate the word affordable with the charts that we know on
Yeah,
the
true.
committee. You know, I
Yeah.
think on its face value, affordable would mean something to most residents. So I like
Yeah.
affordable
Yeah.
myself.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I'm good with affordable myself. This is the Affordable Housing Committee, and this is the Affordable Housing Vision that we're discussing, so in that context, I'm fine with it.
All right, any other comments? All right, okay. All right, so local housing incentive strategies. So again, this is, the purpose of the committee is to update the local housing incentive strategy report, which is an annual report. And that report discusses both barriers and incentives to affordable housing. At our last meeting, we went over some of the potential barriers and incentives to affordable housing that exist today. There are also 11 areas under Florida statute that the committee is required to review in terms of affordable housing incentives. Those 11 are presented on the left-hand side of the screen. And then on the right-hand side of the screen are additional AHAC-initiated incentive areas that have appeared over the years, starting in 2008 to today. So in total, combined, there's 16 in total incentive areas covered in the LHIS, or Local Housing Incentive Strategies report. So the committee discussed, yeah.
The statute refers to these incentives, and if I read it correctly, that it's based on the discretion of the local community, that they're not mandated. Is that correct?
That's correct. So what the statute requires is that the committee review these 11 incentive areas and decide whether or not to make recommendations to implement any of these incentives. The committee has the option to not implement a particular incentive area, depending on the community itself and what best meets the needs of the community. But at minimum, the committee has to review the 11 and make a decision about whether or not these are incentives that the city would like to pursue. Okay. Right, yes.
Quick question, thank you. A handful of our communities are shifting into modular options because of the expedited process and the reduced cost.
Right.
Does that discussion fit into here anywhere, or has it previously?
Yes, so for modular housing, it's not a specific incentive area, but it could be covered under some of the incentive topics. For example, expedited review for that particular type of unit, flexible densities. There are incentives in here where that could fit in terms of the discussion of that, but there's not one specific to that type of housing. There is, in terms of type of unit, there is an incentive area for accessory dwelling units, which is covered under Florida statute to look at. Okay, so the committee discussion at our last meeting on September 9th, there were a number of barriers and incentives that were discussed, and those are summarized here. So the first one that we discussed was the lack of affordable housing supply being a barrier. There's just not enough affordable housing supply available. Part of that is just due to the market, but also the built-out nature of the city of Clearwater and in the larger context of Pinellas County as well. The lack of housing options for senior citizens specifically, I think, was one of the major discussion points at the last meeting. Renter cost burden and the high cost of rent and utilities. We talked about some third-party barriers such as real estate taxes and insurance costs for home ownership as being a significant barrier. We also talked about land use and zoning regulations, and then we talked about accessory dwelling units as an incentive, and then infill density as well as an incentive. So those were the highlights of the discussion from the last meeting, and so we'll continue that today as we go through these different incentive areas. And what I've done is highlighted where the incentive areas overlap with some of these discussion points so that we can return to these. Does anyone have anything to add to this list or feel like anything was missed in this summary of the last meeting? Okay. All right. Okay. So part 2, recommendations. So your homework from our last meeting was to review the prior 2024 LHIS report. That was the document that looked like this, that was provided to you prior to the previous meeting via email attachment, and was also part of your agenda packet for the previous meeting. And so the homework was to evaluate each recommendation from that report and consider whether each recommendation should be continued, modified, or removed. and then identify any new affordable housing incentives not covered in that report. So I'm going to go through that, so don't feel like you have to have the report noted in front of you, but we're going to go through each of those recommendations and discuss those. So the first incentive area is expedited review. So there are several recommendations that are currently in the report related to expedited review. The first one is recommendation 1.1, and 1.1 is to continue to use the request for expedited permitted processing for affordable housing activity form to fast track affordable housing projects. Single-family projects submitted with this form will receive priority during the permit review process by completing reviews of single-family permit reviews within 4 days of the initial submittal and within 3 days of all subsequent submittals. The status of this is that it's completed, meaning that this is in effect and an ongoing process. Any thoughts about this recommendation to continue, modify, or remove? Yes?
What was the intention, the purpose of this particular incentive? Was it volume of applications coming through the permitting process that would require an affordable project to take precedence over other applicants?
I think the incentive for this was to just give that particular type of application priority so that there was some incentive in terms of length of time of review for the applicant to submit their application, and then they know that that's going to be reviewed more quickly than other types of applications. That
What's
was
the general time frame
Yeah,
for?
I think it's 4 days now.
4 days.
Even for a standard permit.
I don't know,
think. They get it back pretty quickly, but it's, I don't know if 4 days is expedited, but it's okay. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, I know when this was originally discussed, the 4 days was supposed to be advantageous at that time, but I'm not sure what the current time is.
I don't actually have that in front of me. We have target timeframes for all of our different projects. So, but detached dwelling, single-family homes are pretty quick, most likely 4 days, possibly faster when you think about we're reviewing all the life, health, safety issues for a building that should hopefully stand for 50-plus years. So, but yeah, from an incentive perspective, it just bumps them, a little bit faster. Every minute, I'm sure, helps.
Does that time frame include multifamily developments as well?
Multifamily developments take longer. I can get the target timeframes. I'll just pull them up on my computer and see.
Comparing volume, is this really necessary to expedite a single-family residential property when it's already taking the same time frame? I mean, I just don't understand the overall picture of why we would expedite, a single-family residential property before others.
Well, I think that comes down to if it is a problem, an issue in our neighborhood of providing affordable housing units. We know we have a shortage of them now, so having a mechanism to expedite that process means we can get more units online quicker to meet the demands of those that need it the most, including elderly and people who are, may have some physical disability. So the expediting process is something that affordable housing developers do like, because we have a time frame then. We know that within 4 days, something is going to get reviewed, we'll get comments. We have our architects or our engineers ready to respond. Again, all in the interest of trying to get units online quickly. And, since the pandemic, the cost of development have increased, and almost every 6 to 9 months, we're seeing supplier letters saying the cost of drywall is going to go up, or copper, or so this also helps keep the costs under control, and you can get something online quicker, permitted quicker, construction started quicker.
shorter time frames. A shorter time frame is advantageous to the builders.
All right, so for this particular recommendation, we're going to come back with some more information about time and volume. But is there any specific recommendation at this time to modify this, other than coming back at the next meeting with some additional supplementary information, and then maybe at that time, there might be some adjustments to the.
Just
Yes.
a
Mhm. Yeah.
quick comment, not necessarily
Yeah.
regarding the direction you're going, but this obviously says single-family projects. I'm just
Okay.
wondering, do we do any expedited process for duplexes or triplexes, that missing middle that is a challenge for so many communities?
Yeah, so I know for multifamily, there's an affordable housing expedited form for affordable housing. For duplexes and triplexes, I'm not sure on that point, so I have to ask.
You're getting your steps in this morning.
Sit on the back row first, so I get to do this. Again, Lauren Matzke for the record. When we receive a form that says it's affordable housing, it's automatically expedited by us. So we don't necessarily only expedite certain affordable housing projects over others. So.
And this has been
We
manageable.
have, officially, we only have two types of housing in our community development code. We have detached or attached. So attached can be anything from a duplex to a high-rise in downtown. So we handle both. If we get the official form that says affordable housing, on the permit intake side, it gets labeled accordingly, and our permit technicians modify our target timeframes to move that forward.
So then I guess it's the language that we're kind of questioning, is that we say single-family projects, I think 2 or 3 different times through this, but we're saying they all fall under the category of attached.
For us, they would, yes. So this particular expedited review was specific to what we would call a detached dwelling, but we already also
Gotcha.
do something similar for the attached dwelling projects.
My understanding is that the affordable housing programs do not include duplexes, triplexes, and quadruplexes. So they wouldn't be, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they would not fall into the category of affordable housing because they're investment properties in most regard, unless the owner occupies one of the units. And then I don't think it's in the city's plan to finance those as affordable housing for assistance programs.
But we're not just talking about assistance programs, we're talking about the development and the building of those units. So, if it's a duplex and both sides are going to be for affordable, then you're developing it, you're not doing assistance.
And that would be under a rental program.
But this is just a recommendation for the permit process for affordable housing to build it, not the assistance.
If there was a necessity to do that, if there was a reason to do that.
Well,
and
if
consider it
it's affordable, if it's considered affordable, they said that it goes to the front of the line.
We could just eliminate the word single family and just put affordable projects.
I think the difference with this one, just to wrap up that point, so with this one, I think over time, because this recommendation, I think originally was just the first sentence, and then I think the portion regarding single family has evolved over the last couple committee meetings, because there was a need to really call out and expedite those single family projects, because multifamily projects take a little bit longer. There's just a lot more involved in that permit review process. But there was a need to just call out that single family, and maybe it is a matter of changing that to the word detached instead of single family, because that's not what the city uses in terms of the nomenclature. But I think that's how that evolved over the last couple meetings. But yeah.
What I was going to say is what I could do is provide you for the next meeting what our target review times are for the other scale of projects, and then you would have that information to be able to either modify or supplement with, my guess is, like you were saying, that, everything was just spelled out very specifically, so we knew exactly what was meant by expediting in this instance. And so, because 1 day, 4 days, it just kind of, a few hours. I mean, I'm not saying that that's what we would do, but, expediting means different things to different people. So we probably provided you with that information for the single-family homes, and if we want to expand it, then I could give you the information for that.
Lauren, could I please ask a question? Do you think this is needed? I mean, does it matter, since you guys already do it so well and have it, keep it moving on a regular basis? Does it need to be specified as, would it help you to have this, or is it just what you're doing already?
Well, I think the way this one is written is it's measurable, and so it gives us something that when asked, we can track over time, how are we meeting this?
Okay.
So I think in that regard, with the goal of having measurable outcomes, it would be good to continue to have this.
Okay.
And that's manageable and achievable. You've been able to achieve.
Yes.
I sit on another similar committee in another municipality, and one of the things that they're doing is actually reporting back to the committee, how well are we doing this? You know, we've been doing this for a while. You know, are we 80% of the time, are we doing this? Are we doing it 90% of the time? So perhaps at the next meeting, we could have some more detail on how are we doing so far with this incentive? You know, are we a B plus? Are we an A minus? Are we an E? It would be great to be able to say, you know, not only is this an incentive, but we're doing extremely well at it.
Well, I would give my team an A+ every time. So, but I think as the world moves towards, you know, those key performance indicators and we start to set targets, then we can, like I said, then we can measure and see how we're doing meeting those targets.
But we have no data for how we've done up to this point?
Well, I mean, we can pull a lot of data out of our system. What I will say is our system was just migrated to the cloud, and it's changed some of our abilities to pull data out of it directly at staff. So I will do my best to see what information I can get in advance of the next meeting regarding that. But if for some reason I'm not able to get that due to that recent migration, then I'll get it for the last meeting.
I have a question. Approximately how many affordable single-family projects is the city looking at or are being developed? I mean, do you have kind of, it's just in a 30-day period? How many permits are you actually receiving?
On average or right now?
On average, say over a 6-month or a 12-month period or monthly, just so I'm.
You know, I think it changes every year. It just depends. I mean, I want to say last year, you know, 2024, we did somewhere around 8 to 10. You know, this year we're looking, I think, of 4 to 5.
Okay.
So it just kind of depends on funding
Right.
levels and what's coming
So
into
we're
the
not
city.
talking, I figure we're not talking that many throughout a 12-month period.
Right, it's not 100.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It'd be nice.
No, absolutely. I was just trying to figure out the impact of this, because there's not a lot of single-family new construction affordable housing that I really see. Okay, thank you.
So I think for this recommendation 1.1, I think what we'll do is table this until the next meeting. We'll come back with some more information about, you know, how the frequency, the number of permits that are coming in, just to give you some benchmarks in terms of this particular recommendation and whether this is still truly expediting or whether this needs to be adjusted. So we'll bring this back on the 28th, this particular recommendation. Yes.
I might add,
Yeah.
in the report that you provided us, it does mention, and the question was asked about the response time. And it was stated that it was within 24 hours and 1 business day.
I think that's the initial response on sufficiency of the application, I think, for that. Yeah. Okay. All right, so recommendation 1.2, this is still under the incentive area of expedited review. The Assistant Director of Economic Development and Housing and Permit Manager will continue to be the primary and secondary points of contact when submitting this is where we jump into multifamily affordable housing projects. Through close coordination, these 2 staff positions will create and oversee an affordable housing one-stop streamlined permitting process, act as a liaison between the developer and all departments involved in the review and permitting process, organize and participate in the pre-application meetings, provide necessary information and forms to the developer to avoid delays during the application and review process, create a process and definitive project requirement checklist for affordable housing projects for each level of review and stage of permitting, starting with an affordable housing project checkbox on application forms as applicable, create a definitive but feasible review timeline for affordable housing projects considering variables such as the type, size, and impact in the community depending on the level and review of stage of permitting, release to the applicant and all city departments involved at once, written statements for additional requirements and project determinations, track the review process through the city's online e-permit system, and report to the developer the status of the application. And this is completed, this is an ongoing process, and right now, the primary points of contact are the Assistant Director, Housing Manager, so Dylan would be the contact for the affordable housing permitting process. All right, any comments regarding this one or retain? Okay. All right, so not seeing any changes, we'll continue this one. 1.3 was continue to improve customer service toward potential project applicants by maintaining a positive attitude, offering a quick response time via emails or phone calls, making available project requirements and forms, providing a list of potential mentors experienced in affordable housing development by the end of first quarter 2025 and updated annually thereafter, and utilizing new technology to enhance administrative efficiencies and to educate developers about the city's affordable housing incentives and permitting process. And all of this is also ongoing. So this is just day-to-day operations of affordable housing oversight. Okay, yes.
Question, back to 1.2, sorry. Should that say single-family and multifamily, or going back to the single-family, multifamily conversation?
Which here on 1.2, the beginning, the first paragraph?
Correct.
I think it could say single-family as well. I don't think anything in here is specific to multifamily. And this is all general process. Would the housing division be okay with that? Okay, all right. Okay, yep, we can add that. So that's on 1.2. All right, so adding single-family and multifamily.
It makes that
Yes.
statement in the last report that single-family or multifamily, and whether multifamily units are counted individually as a project, city staff responded that they are counted as a project, multifamily as well as single-family.
Is that in, are you referring to the second part of 1.2?
I'm referring to on page 9 of the original report, this one. And it's the second paragraph from the bottom, I believe. No, it's the last paragraph on page 9.
Aren't we in the appendix E, AHAC recommendations?
Is this,
Yeah, I'm in the recommendations in the appendix that you mentioned last time.
yes.
Is that where you guys are?
No, I'm in the report.
You're in the
I think
main
I-
I'm in the main.
body.
I think she's on, you're on page 9
Yeah, she's
here.
in the main body.
Are you referring to the paragraph that's discussing the checkbox at the bottom?
No, it says specifically on page 9 at the bottom that the,
Oh, I see, okay, okay. So the last paragraph on page 9, it states, the AHAC inquired as to whether the 8 expedited permits were single-family, or, this is from last year, were single-family or multifamily, and whether multifamily units were counted individually as a project. City staff responded they were counted as a project. The AHAC asked whether the current permit application has a checkbox for affordable housing. City staff responded that current permit application does not have such a checkbox. However, there was a recommendation to add a checkbox. Is there a checkbox on the application form now?
Oh, just for clarification, aren't we working from the culmination of last year's report and appendix E right now?
Yeah, so what we're doing, so the last year's report is provided as a reference.
Right.
However, what was provided to you for this meeting were the slides with the current recommendations in it.
Yep.
But also, there's an updated inventory, it's called Chart 1 Inventory at the top, which essentially updates the content of that 2024 report.
Yep.
So that's provided as an updated version of the section that she's talking about in this report. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
In lieu of a checkbox, what we did was rework our procedures. So at the time of intake, when that letter is provided saying it's a certified affordable housing project, the permit technicians will look to see the number of units, and we have a field for housing units and affordable housing units that just was never used for some reason, and so they're entering it in there. So going forward, we'll collect all of that data in that section. So it would be by unit, even though it's one permit, one project, we'll collect the number of dwelling units that are certified affordable in a field for reporting.
Does that answer your question about the checkbox? Okay.
No, I wasn't questioning the checkbox. I was questioning the definition of a project, whether it's single-family or multifamily.
I think
An
it would
affordable-
be either.
It's
would be
either,
an affordable
yes.
housing project.
So I think the question was raised.
It would be either, but now we're able to track the units, the affordable units. They're taking advantage of the expedited review.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so jumping back to 1.4. So 1.4, still under the expedited review topic. The recommendation was to develop by end of year 2024 and annually update thereafter a brochure and other informational handouts to be published in a prominent location on the city's affordable housing webpage that explain the city's development approval and permitting process to developers, including but not limited to the relationship between city and county policies and the regulation of land use density intensity, and city-sponsored incentives for affordable housing, such as the form we just talked about, and the affordable housing density bonus, parking reductions, and non-conforming exemption for affordable housing. And that was completed in 2024. And if you go to the city's affordable housing webpage, there's resources on that page that support this recommendation. All right, anything further on 1.4? All right. 1.5 was to encourage affordable housing developers of single-family homes to submit frequently used building example plans for pre-screening by the building official to further expedite the staff permit review process. This was marked as not implemented. The city really hasn't received these, even though this incentive was added over the last few years. And really, it's just issues of practicality. Developers just aren't submitting these. So I think this begs again the question this year about whether this is an effective incentive or not, because nobody's responded to it as an incentive. Any thoughts? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is this referring to having, is the idea to eventually maybe have plans on file?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, I'm in favor of that, because if there is a plan that we're using, or anyone else here is using, that buyers or renters like, and they're affordable to build, and we have plans on file, that means that the city review team is only reviewing the site plan, not the plan specifically, because that's already been approved. And that will, again, further expedite the process of review, so that units can get approved quicker and construction can start quicker. So
Okay.
I personally am in favor of plans on file.
Okay.
And
Yes.
I think the issue that
Yeah.
had come up in the past, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that there were some developers that said, well, my plans are proprietary, I don't want it out there in the public records. So I think that was one of the issues that some
I think that was
developers
brought
talked
up
about.
as maybe a reason why they aren't being submitted.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm, yeah.
However, Habitat said that they were going to submit their plans, and I don't know if that ever happened or not, but Habitat for Humanity was
Had a
going to
shaking head back there.
provide their
Yeah.
plans
Yeah.
for this purpose.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the status of that is.
Yeah, no, I don't think they submitted. So what I'm hearing is that perhaps this remains a recommendation, even though it's not actively being used. At least it's there in case anybody would want to use that option or that incentive. Is everybody comfortable with retaining it? Yeah.
Just a thought. If it's an affordable housing, we don't have more than 10 a year, and that's even on the high side, 5 a year. What would be nobody's doing that because it's hard to do right now with prices are increasing and supply and vendors, everything going up so high. So my question is simply, what would be the deterrent from builders wanting to submit a stock plan, I call it stock plan on file, if it's difficult to build anyway? I mean, it's not something anybody can do. You have to have relationships with suppliers and vendors that make those possible. So it seems like it's a difficult task to accomplish, even if you could do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I can just add what had been explained to me by at least one person is ultimately sometimes the parcels that are being developed, there's unique zoning constraints or things like that. So ultimately the one, there's not really a one-size-fits-all
Yeah.
box that can then be replicated because we're using, just kind of the loan, we're infill, so it makes it a little bit more challenging.
Okay.
Regardless, but.
So really, it's not that it's not feasible, but it's almost not practical because of the sites being so different for each property, for each project, excuse me. So yeah, as the builder representative, it's.
Yeah, but that's not the complete picture, because another reason why the numbers aren't large is, there's scarcity of land that's available. So,
That's true, too.
Pinellas County is a peninsula on a peninsula, and there isn't any more land available. So, if you're talking about Pasco, there's a lot more land available, and so plans on file and development is more feasible because the land is less costly.
Yep.
So one of the reasons I would suggest, one of the reasons why there isn't more is because of the cost of land.
Yeah.
Land makes up
Yeah.
a good portion of the total development cost
Absolutely.
here in Pinellas County, so.
Thank you. I appreciate that fleshing that out for me. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. So what I'm hearing is to just retain this as an option, but just understand that there are some issues of practicality with implementation. Yeah.
Exactly.
One thing I thought about is this would also apply to ADUs.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there's some interest by the community to see more ADUs built. That would help increase density and affordable housing options. And so I could see this applying to ADUs that are approved, that then it's just, a site review.
All right, so possibly a consideration to add ADUs to this as well as single-family homes. Okay. I think also we'll, in addition to some of that research from the previous recommendation, 1.1 and 1.2, I think we'll also come back with some revised language for this after discussing with city staff on implementation. So, okay. All right. So I think that gets us through the expedited review incentives. So moving on to modification of fees. So this is a new incentive area. So recommendation 2.1 was to coordinate with Pinellas County regarding database rate flexibility within the multimodal impact fee to support the provision of affordable housing. So this is in progress. Forward Pinellas is studying this, but there are some possible Senate Bill 180 restrictions on this. So this is something that's in flux right now. Forward Pinellas, once they're done with their analysis, we should have some more information to add to this possibly next year in the next year's AHAC committee. Is there anything current that anybody wants to add to this particular recommendation or bring up as a topic? Okay. All right, so we'll maintain this knowing that Forward Pinellas is working on this as well and that the city would be coordinating with any results of that. 2.2, annually assess the financial, legal, and administrative feasibility of reducing, refunding, or redefining by unit size the cost of impact fees and/or permitting fees related to the development of affordable housing, with the goal of being on par with other municipalities in Pinellas County. This is not currently implemented. However, the city has completed some previous impact fee adjustments. There was the Parks and Recreation impact fee waiver, impact fee reimbursements, and there's a future fee study probably happening within the next year or two. This is, I would say, in progress, but not currently implemented for this one. Any thoughts about modifications of fees in terms of impact fees or permitting fee? Okay, all right. So is there a decision then to just continue this pending the outcome of any future study? Okay. All right, 2.3, the Planning and Development Department will continue to implement the fee schedule of fees, rates, and charges ordinance to provide for a reduction in the plan review and permit fees for single-family homes. This was completed. The city recently reduced fees by 75% for affordable housing projects. So this is already completed. Continue modify. Okay. Seeing no comments, we'll continue this one. 2.4, the Economic Development and Housing Department will continue to assist with the payment of plan review and permit fees and impact fees utilizing state and federal funds designated for affordable housing. This is also completed. The city has reduced fees, plus the city has implemented a policy to write down loans to achieve profit on city-funded projects. Okay. All right, seeing nods, we'll continue this one. 3.1, this is flexible density, so this is an incentive area, different incentive area. So this related to some of the discussion from September 9th in terms of infill density and the Live Local Act. So 3.1 was to continue to provide the allowance of density flexibility for affordable housing developments by city policy, and to monitor state legislation regarding density flexibility, including but not limited to the Live Local Act. This is completed in that the city has a density bonus. The density bonus is clarified in the code. And then the Live Local Act, there's information about the Live Local Act and the city's implementation of this on the city's website. And then there's also an existing public amenities incentive pool. All right, seeing no comments, we'll continue this one as well, 3.1. 3.2, maintain specific parameters to grant density flexibility for affordable housing projects as allowed in the Community Development Code within the different zoning districts. This related to some of the discussion we had on September 9th as well in terms of land use and zoning regulations and infill density. The recommendation is currently completed, same as the previous one, with the density bonus, the Live Local Act information, and the public amenities incentive pool. See no comments, we'll continue. 3.3 was to continue to define the density allowance for an affordable housing project as part of a pre-application meeting prior to formal submission of the civil site engineering requirements. Again, this is completed. It's an ongoing process and is handled regularly through the city's review meetings. All right, seeing no comments, we'll continue. Infrastructure capacity, so this is a different incentive area. So infrastructure capacity is something that the city is required to look at. In the past, the committee has not recommended that the city of Clearwater include the reservation of infrastructure capacity for affordable housing for very low-income persons, low-income persons, and moderate-income persons as an incentive for the provision of affordable housing. And primarily, just speaking historically, that has not been a recommendation because the city is mostly built out and infrastructure is already in place. This would most likely be an incentive where you have a situation where there's no infrastructure available. You're moving into a new area where nothing is previously constructed. So, any thoughts about infrastructure capacity? All right, no comments. Is everybody okay with not recommending any incentive in that regard? Okay. All right.
It doesn't sound like it's needed.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't sound like it's needed.
Yeah, not necessary because it's available already.
Right.
So, correct. Yeah. All right. Accessory dwelling units. So this is incentive area number 5. This is something that came up on the September 9th meeting. 5.1 was to continue to allow for accessory dwelling units in non-residential zoning districts as described within the city's Community Development Code. And this is completed. ADUs are already allowed in non-residential as defined in the Community Development Code, and it lists which zoning districts those are allowed in. Any thoughts about 5.1? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to 5.2. So 5.2 is implementing city council comprehensive plan policy QP 6.1.7 and 6.1.10 to allow accessory dwelling units by providing corresponding standards in the community development code. And then such standards may include unit size, parking standards, setbacks, et cetera, and then occupancy tenure requirements. This was completed via ordinance number 9758-24. So this is in place already in the comprehensive plan and into the community development code. All right, seeing no comments, we'll move on. 5.3, provide flexibility for other alternative unit types such as co-housing to incentivize unconventional solutions to address affordable housing needs and support aging in place within existing neighborhoods. This relates to some of the discussion last week regarding senior housing for senior citizens. This is in progress. I don't believe there's anything specific to co-housing or alternative unit types. However, it's something that continues to be evaluated. And then Lauren, I don't know whether you know anything further about that. This would be unconventional units, like co-housing. Is there anything in progress or not since that recent comp plan?
No, there's nothing in progress because co-housing is really just an ownership or operation model. We don't regulate how many bedrooms a unit could have or anything like that. It's all, it's one dwelling unit based on, the kitchen. One kitchen makes one dwelling unit in a very, short sense. There are, newer models where people are doing more of the courtyard, cottage courts and things of that nature, just kind of smaller units aggregated on a parcel. We have an avenue to permit those because we use our some of our infill development uses to be able to do that. We don't have any, so we haven't really been able to test it. We had one potential one, but it didn't end up coming to fruition, and we were all looking forward to helping work through it as our first one. So I think it's something that we would love to see.
All right, any comments about this one in particular? Maintain it as an incentive moving forward, and then the city can continue to revisit it. Okay. Okay. All right, 5.4 is consider educational and financial incentives that reduce barriers to the rehabilitation and construction of accessory dwelling units, such as information about the permitting process specific to accessory dwelling units, rebates, and other fee reductions. This one was marked as in progress. ADU webpage provides information on the city's website. And this is just about facilitating information about how someone would go about permitting and constructing an accessory dwelling unit. Okay. All right, seeing no comments, we'll move on. 6.1 is to continue to allow flexible setback requirements for affordable housing developments. This was marked as completed. Right now in the Community Development Code, this is based on the level of review generally applying to that particular development. So that flexibility is already built into the Community Development Code.
So can you remove it then if it's already built in? Is it needed?
I'm sorry?
If it's already built into the code, is it needed?
That's a good question. Is this something that the committee would like to continue in there, to continue to allow it? It is an incentive area in terms of Florida statutes, the parking reduction, so that's there, but the flexible setback requirements is something that's specific to the committee's recommendation.
Well, this specific recommendation doesn't really address parking reduction.
Yeah, no, so this, I think it goes on to 2. Yeah, so this is 2 parts, and I think over the years the committee's added this. The flexible setback requirements is in terms of site configuration and allowing that, and it plays into the parking in terms of how the site's configured. And then part 2 is to continue to tie those reductions of off-street parking to proximity and access to alternative modes of transportation. So although the incentive area is parking reductions, it's really talking about site flexibility in terms of design on how you're building that into the site, including parking allowances. Yes, yeah.
In lieu of parking,
Mhm.
is there requirements for, let's say, sidewalks? Or, to get someone who doesn't have a car, doesn't need a parking spot, but they need to walk to the bus or the grocery store or whatever. So I don't understand this reduction and what requirements are, and
Yeah,
be
so-
honest with
so
you,
for
because-
so for 6.2, it's tying those reductions of off-street parking to the availability and access to alternative modes of transportation, which includes, as you just mentioned, sidewalks is one of those alternative modes of transportation. So it's tying that reduction of off-street parking to there being some other alternative way of moving around. Yes, Mr. Corney, you're.
Well, I was just going to
Yeah.
offer an example when we have to use reduction in setbacks. We see it commonly on corner lots where you have two fronts. The city says when it's on a corner, you have to comply with the front setback, which is 25 feet. So you have a lot that's 50 feet by 90 feet, and you're taking 25 feet from each side. You're essentially left building a shotgun house.
Exactly.
So going through this flexible density process allows for the reduction in one of those setbacks to where you can build, a normal looking house, or maybe a 40-foot wide house, as opposed to a 25-foot long, something that looks like a shotgun house.
But don't they allow that flexibility for all housing, or is it just affordable housing? I thought they were pretty flexible on that sometimes. I don't know.
The flexibility for corner lots, as the example, is for all housing. So we look at consistency of character and, how is it going to fit in and everything like that. But our code is a flexible code because it's an infill development, and it's very hard to write a zoning standard that covers the wide variety of neighborhoods that we have. If I can go ahead while I'm talking, touch on the parking piece. An example would be if you could only, a typical dwelling unit requires 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. Sometimes site constraints or other things impact the ability to provide so much off-street parking. And so there's the ability to request a reduction, maybe to provide one space instead of 2. And you would write a narrative or explain how there's other ways to get to places, or, that the environment is such that you could use alternative means to access it.
Honestly, my observation of parking in the city of Clearwater, by reducing required parking, forces that occupant, and you all know, we all have, 5 people living in a 2-bedroom, and they each have a car. They're parking across the sidewalks, they're parking in the wrong direction on the streets, they're parking on thoroughfares that should not be parked on. And I'm not a proponent of parking reductions at all, because we Americans have an umbilical cord to our automobiles. So by reducing parking, they're still going to drive, they're still going to have the cars, and they're going to be parking elsewhere. They may go and park at the shopping center, perhaps, if it's in distance, or the office complex across the street, or up and down the easements. I see it every single day. So I am not a proponent of reducing parking, because you're increasing the density, you're increasing more people have more cars. So why reduce the parking? Build a parking lot in a multifamily place or whatever. And you know what else they do? They park all over the street, all over their yards. 2 or 3 cars in the yard, 5 cars in the yard, because the apartment or the quadruplex or duplex is being occupied by more than is allowed. And so they got to park somewhere, so they park on the street. On my street, people are parking on Duncan Avenue where never parked before in the 43 years I've been in my house. People are coming by and smashing those cars, but because they don't see them. so, I'm just not an advocate for reduced parking, to be honest with you. But
I understand everything you've said. The one pushback that I will have is that this is in relation to affordable housing. And when you're talking about certain special populations, such as family, such as individuals with developmental disabilities, they can't drive. So to have parking requirements when, say we're doing a developmentally disabled project, and we're required to have 2 parking spaces for every unit, and the people who reside in those units don't drive. So we've got a sea of parking for a project that will seldomly be used. So having the flexibility to reduce parking for special populations, special need housing, I think is an incentive we want, because otherwise we're forcing, on a project like that, to spend valuable dollars for paving, land that's not going to be used for that intended purpose.
And I agree. And generally, people in those conditions have home care, they got nursing, they need a place to park during the day. Maybe not in the evening, but during the day. So that's to consider. So at least every unit should have at least 1 parking space, maybe 1.5 parking spaces, but not to eliminate it to a point where you're relying on 50% of your population to not use a parking lot, and they're parking elsewhere for access to that property. So it really needs to be considered, not that it needs to be eliminated, but it needs to be considered for every single project, depending on the number of units, the population within, and the need for that particular parking. But just not across the board eliminate parking because it's affordable or whatever.
This doesn't impact handicap parking requirements, I imagine, because that's also still in place too, and that's always a big portion of your projects when you're developing them, because you have to allow for a certain number of handicap parking spaces, and I don't think this is impacting that code at
No,
all.
so basic requirements of number of handicap spaces, et cetera,
That's not
wouldn't be
being impacted.
affected, no, by this. Those standards wouldn't be affected. It's overall talking about
It's just
general
overall.
parking. I think to help facilitate the discussion of these 2 recommendations, I think we should look at them separately, because I think they're separate topics, really. So 6.1, what I'm hearing is the city already does 6.1 essentially with the flexible level of review. However, it still serves as an incentive for affordable housing because you get that flexibility and setbacks with the project. Is there a willingness to continue that recommendation moving forward, just so that it's called out, that that's an incentive? Okay. All right, so moving on from 6.1, we'll keep 6.1, and then 6.2, I think the majority of this discussion under the parking reductions conversation has centered really on this particular recommendation. Are there any suggested modifications to this recommendation, which is tying reductions of off-street parking to the availability of alternative modes of transportation? So I'm hearing some support for reduction of parking, but maybe not too much of a reduction in parking. Any suggestions on this one? Yes?
Thank you. I'm comfortable with it. I do understand the story that you're telling, and we do have that challenge in a lot of neighborhoods. But I think allowing staff the flexibility on a case-by-case basis is important for them to continue to maneuver. I think it's also important to identify that the key word in this is reductions and not eliminations, and there's definitely a difference there. So I'm comfortable as written, but I do understand where she's coming from.
The large majority of the people that I work with are low income or very low income, and they use public transportation the majority of the time. They can't afford a car. They certainly can't afford a car, maintenance, and insurance. So the housing that I've been involved with, there is plenty of parking available. Now,
Of course, it's relative to the use of,
Right.
and the occupants of the property. So
Right.
each project is different.
Right. We have 4 family units, or 8 family units next to us with 4 parking spaces, and they're never full because they're using public transportation.
Exactly.
it's nice to have that flexibility.
Absolutely. Flexible lot configuration.
We haven't gotten there
Oh, we're not, I thought we were.
yet. Not yet.
Oh, we're still on parking. Okay.
Are you bringing back to flexible, you would like to talk about flexible lot configurations or the next
That's
one?
next anyway.
You
Okay, I
mentioned
see.
it
All right.
as
Okay.
it
All right.
applied to parking.
Okay, so just to wrap up 6.2, so what I'm hearing is just leave as is for now. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So we'll move on to 7.1, flexible lot configurations. Okay, Ms. Byers, yes.
Can you define that a little more?
Yeah, so this one's continue to allow flexible lot configurations for affordable housing development by remaining sensitive to the character and context of existing neighborhoods. This is really, I believe, referring to, in the context of the statute, actual platting of the lots and the configuration of the lot area. So, so that's what this is referring to. With that said, I'm not sure in the city of Clearwater, given the development pattern that exists today, how much that lot configuration can be adjusted. Obviously, there's the ability to replat. However, how often that happens, I'm not sure in the context of the city, but the Florida statute is referring to that really. So the shape of the lot, the area of the lot, et cetera. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
Let's say you have a recorded plat in the
Mhm.
public record, official records and so forth, and it contains 20 lots.
Mhm.
And a storm comes through and destroys 5 of the houses in that subdivision. And a developer comes along and wants to buy all of those lots. It's a residential subdivision. So they do a unity of title and they create a large parcel of 5 lots. And they come into a residential neighborhood and they want to build a 10-story apartment building.
That's different zoning.
The zoning wouldn't allow for that.
Zoning. the
Well,
zoning would
it
stop.
could. Under unity of title, they can apply for rezoning. So you have to be careful with this, because if somebody comes in and buys 4 lots in the middle of my cul-de-sac neighborhood and wants to build, you know, an apartment building, I may not be very happy with that. So you have to be very careful on flexible lot configuration. So she can
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
help us a little bit with that.
Yeah, there would be a rezoning requirement.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure, the base zoning in most of our residential districts limits the height and the configuration. Many of our residential, or single-family neighborhoods, for lack of a better term, really mostly allow single-family houses. Therefore, you know, that's also why we have some of the conversations that we're having right now. In terms of the potential of a rezoning, I would advise anyone, if you were my customer, I'd say you're welcome to apply, but you may not necessarily have staff support or a recommendation of support, but ultimately it's city council's decision.
I know.
And it comes before
But,
flexible.
but, I mean,
standard.
it could potentially be, it would need amendments to a future land use designation and a zoning designation, most likely. And those require a lot of review. Changes to our future land use map often require changes to the countywide plan map, which is also reviewed by the Board of County Commissioners. So there's a lot of checks and balances in our review process. But in particular, I think what's key in this is the remaining sensitive to the character and context of existing neighborhoods, because when we're looking at the criteria for a rezoning or a land use plan amendment, we're also looking at those. And would it be more of a spot zoning, so to speak? If it's fully surrounded by an area, that's the same zoning, and this was the anomaly, that's a different conversation than, you know, this would become the anomaly.
Fingers crossed.
All right. That was actually a very good example of this particular recommendation.
No, it was a
Yeah.
little blown up a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. But no, but
it
that was
does
a good
happen.
example of what this means.
What could happen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Any comments on this one? So again, the question is whether to continue, modify, or remove the recommendation. Is this something that the committee is wanting to continue?
I would say yes, because there's a lot of neighborhoods where the homes are old and dilapidated, and they could be, you know, demolished and reconstructed or consolidated and built something. So it's not, you just have to be very cautious in the zoning requirements and so forth to make sure that it doesn't get out of hand.
I guess I would say, because I'm battling a cold here, is I think in that example, I would understand if it was like a cultural, like there's a residential area that was historic. But I guess my question would be, the point of the affordable housing is we know that we don't have enough of it. So if it would make sense, and I'm not saying a developer coming in building multi-million-dollar condos next to 5 residential houses, but if somebody came in and built a 10-story building that was affordable, I feel like in some ways, depending on the neighborhood,
Right.
that would be a win for us, right? We would want them. We're not talking about developers coming in trying to make super high-end condos. We're talking about more affordable housing for the people that we're trying to serve. And I think that would probably be a win. So just taking that scenario a little bit and suggesting that in some neighborhoods that probably doesn't make sense, but I would suggest in some neighborhoods that probably does make a lot of sense, right?
And it could.
Okay, yes.
The scenario you described does make sense, and to be fearful of it is understandable. I would agree with you if this sentence just read flexible lot configurations for affordable housing developments and had a period there. What gives me a bit of comfort is it continues to say, while remaining sensitive to the character and context of the existing neighborhoods. I think that should give you a little peace of mind that
A little bit.
staff would consider that
Yeah.
without a doubt, and I would hope
Yeah.
council would. I don't know who they are, but I hope they would.
You don't know any
You
more,
know.
council?
You know, all you got to do is say affordable housing, like she said, and you can build anything you want anywhere. And I think whether it's affordable or market, it should be, everything should be considered. You know, don't make exceptions just because we're using the word affordable housing, you know.
Makes sense.
All right, so I'm hearing to continue this, so, all right, okay. So 7.1 will go on to 8, so this is a new incentive area. So modification of street requirements. This is another one where previous committees have decided to not recommend this particular incentive. And the wording that's been used previously was because such standards are in place to benefit public health and safety, we do not recommend that the city utilize the modification of street requirements as an incentive for affordable housing. This is referring to street requirements in terms of the width of the street, the dimensions, standards, et cetera, surrounding streets. Is everybody comfortable with the recommendation of no recommendation? Okay. All right. Okay. 9 is pre-adoption policy consideration. 9.1 reads, as part of its annual reporting, the Economic Development and Housing Department will continue to review all regulations and ordinances that may affect the cost of housing. This is considered in progress as an ongoing process, and it's completed annually as part of this AHAC review, as well as ongoing day-to-day operations of the Economic Development and Housing Department. All right, seeing no comments, we'll move on. 9.2, continue the review process maintained by the senior executive team through which any new regulatory instrument created in the city, so for example, ordinances, regulations, et cetera, or by related state legislation can be evaluated for its effect on housing affordability. The information that we received is that this is not currently implemented and that the senior executive team doesn't currently evaluate this in particular. I believe this happens in other ways through the city, but it's not part of the set process. And I don't know, Dylan, if you have any more information about that.
I think it's something that, once we have a new director for our department, they would likely implement back into the senior executive team meetings, but as of right now, it's not something that's a conversation.
Who is the senior executive team?
That's going to be departmental management and the city manager's office.
Given that this isn't currently implemented, is there any suggestion about revising this? Maybe I'm trying to think of a way to just reword this right now is potentially resume in the future or something, the review process maintained by the senior executive team, because it's not currently ongoing.
I
Yes?
agree with you, because you can't really continue a process if
That's
it's
not happening
not
yet.
happening.
Yeah.
But maybe
Okay.
revisit in the future.
Okay. All right, so we will come back with revised language for this at our October 28th meeting. So. Yes.
You know, and also, I don't know that that meeting is really the appropriate meeting for that to be discussed. Maybe there's a separate meeting we could look into in lieu of that meeting. That would be a better situation, better equipped to discuss those changes.
Or remove. I mean, if we're not doing it and you don't think it's a tool of need for staff or an incentive, or what hurts removing it?
Right.
And revisiting next year?
Yep, I'm fine, yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, so let's, on this one, on 9.2, what we'll do is we'll meet with city staff in between now and the next meeting, come up with a suggestion for this, either to remove it or reword it as would be practical, and then bring that back on October 28th for consideration. So, okay, so the next one is inventory of public lands. So the Economic Development and Housing Department will continue to maintain the inventory of publicly owned land suitable for development of affordable housing. This is completed in that it's an ongoing process. Not only was the city doing this previously, but Live Local Act, when it was implemented, now requires it to be done. So the city is doing this. Seeing no comments, we'll move on to the, yes, oh yes.
I have a question about public lands.
Uh-huh.
In this report, there was a list of several. There were like 6 or 8 lots on South Nathan's Lane. So I looked up the address of one of them, 864 South Nathan's Lane. It didn't exist in the public records, which tells me there had to be a consolidation of those 8 different properties into, they went somewhere. Does anybody know where those lots went?
Both getting up.
So I know at one
I
point
know
a
I'm
developer
pain
was
in the
looking
butt.
to develop those parcels. They actually subdivided that one parcel. To my knowledge, they're still subdivided. I'm not sure.
I'm not familiar with that site. I know that the property appraiser will zero out an address, so we maintain it on our own internal housing atlas. But if you search certain addresses that are vacant, you won't find them by address. You have to search by the parcel ID number. So
Okay.
that, I don't know if that's where you were looking or not.
No, I
but-
went to the address thinking it was,
Okay.
a residential
Yeah,
lot.
I'm not sure then on that.
Okay.
I mean, if anything was requested from us to consolidate or not, we have a good rapport with the property appraiser's office. They do email us when they receive requests for either lot consolidation or lot splits to confirm that we're aware of it and that we can at least provide input regarding whether it's consistent with zoning or not.
Okay.
Okay. All right, anything else on 10.1? Okay, all right. So 10.2 is to continue to publish that inventory on the city's webpage, and also to link to Pinellas County's inventory. And this is in order to inform prospective developers and nonprofit agencies about those properties. Again, this is something that was required by the Live Local Act, but currently Pinellas County's inventory is not linked on our website, but it's easy to find Pinellas County's inventory on their website, so we can continue to keep that as a recommendation to add that to the city's website. Any comments about this particular one, about publication? Okay. All right. So 10.3 is just to continue to make publicly owned land available to prospective developers and nonprofit agencies for developing affordable housing, ongoing process on 10.3. And then 10.4 is that the Economic Development and Housing Department will coordinate with Planning and Development Department to identify properties having repeat code violations that may be suitable for rehabilitation, acquisition, demolition, for affordable housing. And I think this came up at the previous year's AHAC. There was some discussion about this. This is completed in the sense that coordination occurs. However, there's not really a clear process for that coordination other than it just occurs generally. Yes.
So, at the last meeting in September, I think we discussed creating a referral from code compliance to housing for people that are being cited for roof condition or tarps or whatever, to offer them rehabilitation services. And I don't know if that happened or how that works, or can the board refer that person when they go, when they're cited and they're fined. And another provision too,
Give her a
and you
chair.
can answer.
Well, in all fairness, I've only
She's
got a
getting
few
her
more minutes
steps in.
before I have to run to a conflicting meeting. Regarding, if I heard you correctly, one of the statements was, do our code compliance officers refer? And they do. They receive a lot of information
Okay,
from economic development and housing for the different programs available. Similarly, when economic development and housing is offering grant incentives, they coordinate with code compliance and find out if there were any issues that needed to be resolved, or would this grant or what have you help resolve ongoing code compliance issues. Naturally, the last thing that we really want to do is take ownership of a property. Our code compliance team works very hard to get voluntary compliance, and if not voluntary, then we do use our other mechanisms. But and then we do have a foreclosure process should it reach that stage. But even in that process, it takes time. We reach out and try to work with property owners prior to any recommendations of foreclosure.
I read in here that those particular homeowners that would apply for rehabilitation, and correct me if I misread this, that there are liens attached because, and judgments attached, and so rehab could not do anything in the house because of the liens on the property, but would you relieve those liens if they were to replace their roof, as an example?
There is the ability to request a lien reduction through, it depends on, if the code board, the municipal code enforcement board has stipulated the fines. They're the ones who can release the fines, and a property owner can request a lien reduction. Depending on the circumstances, there's other information compiled in that, but they could be reduced as low as administrative costs. One of the other things that we've had conversations about recently is, let's say a new property owner wanted to purchase a house and it had a lot of liens and needed repair. We have the ability through legal to enter into stipulated settlement agreements. And so it protects the city in that, we can, I don't know all the legal terms, but we could basically hold the liens so the sale can go through, but the new buyer would be held to addressing all of those issues. So it allows the transfer of title, but it still holds them to meeting the requirements and rehabbing the home to bring it back to city standards.
Okay.
Just real quick, and we're actually working with the code department on a process for our rehabilitation program. Should there be liens on the property that restrict us from being able to do the project to afford the funds to them, then we are working through a process with code on how we could, what was the name of the process? Stipulated agreements,
Okay.
which would basically settle those liens out, so.
Awesome. Okay.
All right. Anything further on this one? It sounds like this is in process. All right, so we'll continue this one as well. 10.5 is to continue to monitor the policy procedure for distribution of city-owned lots. And part of this recommendation was to consider including energy-efficient items and related emerging technologies into the scoring matrix to support environmentally friendly development in partnership with the Green Print 2.0 timeline. This is an ongoing process in that the city does have a lot disposition procedure, and there is a checklist on that in terms of how points are scored for the scoring matrix. Seeing no comments, all right, we'll move on. 11, so this is the last Florida statute required incentive area. So this is proximity to transportation, employment, and mixed-use development. 11.1 is the city will maintain and implement policies of the city's comprehensive plan that incentivize affordable housing development proximate to transportation hubs, major employment centers, and mixed-use developments. So this is in there. There's multiple policies currently in the comprehensive plan to this end. All right. Seeing no comments, we'll move on. All right, so that was the 11th incentive area, and now we'll move into the incentive areas that are not required by Florida statute. These are ones that have been added by the committee over the years. 12.1 is to continue to allow and promote adaptive reuse involving the conversion of surplus and/or outmoded buildings, including old churches, school buildings, hospitals, train stations, warehouses, factories, hotels, office buildings, malls, etc., to mixed uses where permitted by zoning district or by the Live Local Act. This is completed in the fact that city policy allows for this already, but the Live Local Act also now applies to commercial, industrial, or religious, institutional for mixed use as well. Any comments? Okay. All right, I'm seeing nods, so we'll continue this. 13 is the Land Development Code specifically. 13.1 is to continue to incentivize developers to address recommended design standards for affordable housing developments consistent with Section 3-920 of the City of Clearwater Community Development Code. And other criteria could include, but are not limited to, and then there's a number of standards under there, including direct and visual access to open space for residents, play areas for family housing, nighttime outdoor illumination for safety, landscape standards, and screening for nuisances, centrally located common facilities, SEPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, and electric vehicle charging infrastructure. This is in progress and that is partially completed. The first part of 13.1, I'm going to scroll back to the previous slide. The large bolded text on there is implemented, but some of the other criteria is not included yet. Any thoughts on 13.1? Okay. All right, so we'll move on to 14.1, which is communication and marketing of affordable housing. This is continuing to improve current communication channels and marketing materials to reach different stakeholders interested in affordable housing. Some of the suggested actions include, but are not limited to, conducting an educational campaign in conjunction with regular city communications to rebrand affordable housing as workforce or attainable housing that supports the needs of residents through a variety of unit product types compatible with the city's neighborhoods. Partner with Amplify Clearwater and others to broadly promote the benefits and opportunities for affordable housing development and communicate successes. Prepare, update, and keep current marketing materials for the general public in order to promote the different housing programs the city offers. So this includes home buyer education and down payment assistance. Preparing, updating, and keeping current marketing materials that help developers and the general public to understand the application criteria, permitting process, and the number of incentives available for rehabilitation and new construction of affordable housing units. Make accessible to the public an inventory and a map of suitable residential vacant land available for development, and including a section on the city's webpage called Affordable Housing and Community Development, specifically dedicated to the promotion of affordable housing, and sharing outcomes and analytics with appropriate city boards and committees. All of this is ongoing in terms of efforts. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, no comments. 15 is financing. So at our September 9th meeting, we talked about renter and homeowner cost burden as well as the lack of housing supply. So number 15, financing, and 15.1 is to diversify financial strategies to contribute to new construction and maintenance of affordable housing and financial assistance to obtain affordable housing. This is a very general recommendation. It's just to continue to look for as many different financing options as possible to support projects. All right, seeing nods, we'll move on. All right, 15.2 is evaluate the feasibility of reducing paying code violation liens on lots suitable for affordable housing. We just had this conversation in regard to the other recommendation. Okay, all right, seeing nods, we'll move on. And then 15.3 is ensure city staffing levels are adequate to achieve the AHAC recommendations of the LHIS report. And this is in progress as well. So, ongoing. Okay, seeing nods. All right, so 16 partnerships. This is a long one, 16.1. It's to develop public and private partnerships for the provision of affordable housing. So we're talking about preparing, advertising, and maintaining an inventory of affordable housing providers and developers and any other related organizations. So I believe the Housing Division maintains just a general contact list for affordable housing developers. Encourage partnerships between current and new affordable housing developers for mentoring and technical training. Establish partnerships with major employers to coordinate the supply of workforce housing. Encourage and support joint development opportunities between the private sector and nonprofits to develop affordable housing. Engage lenders in training and ongoing discussion with the city relative to underwriting and credit standards, technology solutions, as well as the development of financial products in an effort to maximize the financing options available to potential first home buyers, your conventional and other lenders. Coordinating with Pinellas County joint programs for the provision of affordable housing, including the Pinellas County Countywide Housing Strategy, Advantage Pinellas Housing Compact, and Pinellas Housing Finance Authority. Coordinating with other entitlement grantees in the region to improve consistency as feasible between qualification criteria for housing assistance programs. That's a recommendation that came out of last year's AHAC. Monitor and encourage citizens to lobby for the development of statewide legislative initiatives to gauge the local impact of their provisions. Partnering with lenders, realtors, and title companies, inspectors, and contractors through regular outreach to increase knowledge of the city's housing assistance programs, providing guidelines and training to improve compliance, and facilitate opportunities for qualified contractors to bid projects. And then coordinating with the private sector and nonprofits to provide home buyer education, home warranties, and other strategies to reduce the ongoing maintenance risk of homeownership. And this is, and this continues increasing down payment assistant loan amounts. This is something that came out of last year's as well. Improving the timing of quality housing quality standard inspections to facilitate closings on homes assisted with down payment assistance loans. And then partnering with the private sector nonprofits to address third-party barriers. So these are third-party barriers such as construction costs, et cetera, and insurance costs for homeowners. So all of these are ongoing efforts. I won't say that they're all completed 100%. I think these are a big push in terms of this is a lot of coordination and partnering that is going on. But I know the city is constantly trying to strive to achieve these. So.
I have a comment on this. When I get asked, and I do get asked because I'm a builder and a realtor, I don't have a one, and I don't even need one, but I would love to see some language on a clearer direction of where to start somebody, because I always say go to the city of Clearwater, myclearwater.com. But I don't feel like after reading this and hearing it again and knowing so many different agencies that are involved personally, how do you, if I came up to you tomorrow and said, how do I help build affordable housing? How do I find out what's available? How do I do that? What is my first step? How would you answer that question?
Yeah, I would answer that question. So the city does have a really good affordable housing webpage that has a lot of information on it. I would start there, and then I probably would suggest calling the city's housing division to just inquire and ask about how to get started in the city. And I think city staff can then connect the dots for that particular developer, depending on what type of project they're looking to do. So,
Okay, so the affordable housing website. So
yeah.
should that be designated? And I don't want to narrow this at all because this is extremely.
It's a big list.
I
yeah.
love it, and I love that. That's
Yeah.
very helpful. And
Yeah.
is there a way to add any language into this that gives somebody a starting point? Because this is so, it's very comprehensive, but it's also a little vague. I mean, it's very comprehensive. So do we want comprehensive, or do we want any
Specific. Yeah.
specificity?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know, and that, I'm just asking if that would be helpful to, for execution and application.
Yeah, we can certainly look at the language in here and create some kind of more directive.
Maybe just one dot, like the
Yeah,
top, it says.
that says start with, start
or
here.
something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. For sure, yeah, we can definitely look at that. And I know that this, out of all the recommendations, this has the most sub-bullets with the most
Which is
information.
great.
It's really a lot, yeah. Yeah, but
I'd
I
still-
understand what you're saying in terms of where is that
Practicality.
one-stop resource? And
Even
I-
to start, yeah.
And I think the city has really tried to put that all together on that affordable housing webpage,
Yep.
but maybe the fact that you're asking that question means that maybe not
It's
enough
not. People
folks know about it
Exactly,
or
and
don't.
I've lived here
yeah.
35 years, and I honestly, I just send them to myclearwater.com, which is
Yeah.
great, but I
Right,
wish.
how do you get down to that point or know to go there? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, that's a great point, that's a great point, so, yeah, we'll look at that for sure. Anything else? Yes,
I was just gonna say, myclearwater.com does have that amazing tool of Sunny.
Yeah,
It's
oh,
down
yeah,
there,
yeah,
the
yeah.
chat bot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
instead of
that's
trying to old school,
Yeah.
double click, search, back out and get lost in a rabbit hole.
That's, yep,
Just
yeah.
ask Sunny.
Okay.
Always seems to direct you right, and if
It
not,
does, yeah.
please share with staff that it did not direct, and they'll fix it, and they're very
Yeah,
responsive
thank
to
you.
that request, but the bot is amazing. Sunny does an amazing
It
job.
actually is, I've used it for, not this, but, no, that's actually very true.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's a great point, so,
Mhm.
yeah. All right. All right, so 16 was the last recommendation, and again, that was the group of recommendations that were AHAC initiated. So our next meeting is scheduled for October 28th. There are a number of recommendations in here that I've made notes on that we're going to either get more information for you and/or bring back revised language for those particular recommendations. So I'll be meeting with city staff to help refine that before our next meeting. And then you should have an updated set of slides and everything added to that agenda packet for the next meeting. But with that, I will leave it. Dylan, did you have anything else to add to this particular portion of the conversation?
No, just I appreciate everyone's time, and this was a really valuable conversation for me and staff, so thank you.
All right, thank you all. See you on October 28th.
Thank you.
Does anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? If so, please step to the podium and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Ms. Dubois, do we have any comments by email? I will now close the public comment period. Is there anyone here to speak to items not on today's agenda? Are there any email comments? Lastly, I'd like to ask Dylan Mayud if he has anything additional to report to the committee. Our next AHAC meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 28th at 9 a.m. in these chambers. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.